this an offensive foul by Solomon Hill or, not the flop? Marcus Smart, what do you think?
Great job, Marcus. Way to get that. They called the charge.
For Isaac Newton says, for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. I don't know how I'm going forward and you fall this way.
Right.
It works though, right? I mean, isn't that the bottom line?
He's the worst flopper in the league. It's not convincing at all.
We'll see about that by the rest of the season. Worst flopper in the league is a contested title. Welcome to The Jump. I'm Rachel Nichols. That is the captain, 14-year NBA vet Steven Jackson, and our NBA insider Amin El-Hassan. And guys, we got a developing situation brewing between two of the biggest names in basketball, LeBron James and Phil Jackson. Here was LeBron just this morning after shoot-around.
I had nothing but respect for him as a coach, for what he was able to do. Obviously, at the helm of one of my favorite players of all time, MJ, and also been there growing up and watching with the Lakers. But I got nothing for him.
I've got nothing for him. He said more, and we're going to play that for you, but let's give you the background first. Yesterday, ESPN.com published an interview with Phil. It touched on a lot of topics, but here's how Phil answered a question about Pat Riley and LeBron leaving the Heat. Quote, when LeBron was playing with the Heat, they went to Cleveland, and he wanted to spend the night. They don't do overnights. Teams just don't. So now Spoelstra has to text Riley and say, what do I do in this situation? And Pat, who has iron fist rules, answered, you are on the plane. You are with this team. You can't hold up the whole team. I'm going to slow down here so you can get this. Because you and your mom and your posse want to spend an extra night in Cleveland. Phil goes on. I always thought Pat had this really nice vibe with his guys, but something happened there where it broke down. I do know LeBron likes special treatment, he says. He needs things his own way. Now, it's important to give a little context here. We believe the incident Phil Jackson is referring to is when LeBron wanted to stay overnight so the next day he could host the entire team for Thanksgiving dinner at his house in Akron.
Monster.
Otherwise, they would have had to have Thanksgiving in a hotel conference room in Toronto. So not exactly selfish behavior there. Of course, it's not clear if Phil knew that, but anyway, last night LeBron's close friend and longtime business partner Maverick Carter tweeted this, quote, after the hard work, effort, and achievement, and Phil Jackson still calls us a posse. Every step you take, they remind you, you ghetto. Carter later tweeted he wasn't calling Phil a racist, just calling out his, quote, disrespectful language. And he later elaborated to ESPN's Dave McMenamin, quote, it's the word posse and the characterization that I take offense to. If he would have said LeBron and his agent, LeBron and his business partners, LeBron and his friends, that's one thing. Yet because you're young and black, he can use that word. We're grown men. Again, some context. Two of LeBron's closest friends, the men you often see around him in important moments, are Maverick Carter, who at 34 years old helms several successful media companies, and Rich Paul, an agent who manages players and contracts worth many hundreds of millions of dollars. And here's a little context on the other side. Phil Jackson does have a long track record of speaking out on the side of racial equality. And not just talking the talk, but also walking the walk, which is partly why you heard LeBron say that in the past, he's had a lot of respect for Jackson. But apparently now that has changed. Here's the rest of what he said this morning.
I've been in this league 14 years, and from the beginning, 2 years in, I felt like that I wanted to, put my guys in position of power and give those guys an opportunity to better themselves. And in the beginning, we were highly criticized, and I was highly criticized about what I wanted to do to help some guys around me become very successful in business. And it just sucks that now at this point, having one of the biggest businesses that you can have both on and off the floor, having a certified agent in Rich Paul, having a certified business partner in Maverick Carter, that's done so many great business, that the title for young African Americans is the word posse. So it's for me, we see the success that we had, but then there's always someone that lets you know how far we still have to go as African Americans. And I just don't believe that Phil Jackson would have used that same term if he was doing business with someone else, working with another team, or if he was working with anybody in sports that was owning a team that wasn't African American and they had a group of guys around him that he didn't agree with what they did, I don't think he would have called him a posse. But it just shows how far we still have to go. He says it out to the media. You can only imagine what he says when the camera's not on him or the headset is not on or whatever you guys record on. So he's got a lot more work to do.
So that is extremely strong. First, the comment where he says, I can only imagine what he says when the camera isn't on him. That's a shot. And then also making the point that he thinks this is explicitly about race, because he says that he doesn't think Phil Jackson would use that term if he wasn't talking about someone who was African American. I mean, what did you take away from this whole situation?
Well, I mean, there's several levels, right? Level one is we can focus on the word. The word definitely is loaded language. Mm-hmm. As people of color, we're accustomed to this, that in society, people don't say the words that they want to say a lot of times, so they use kind of this coded language, and that's supposed to refer to, the one that a lot of comedians always use, the you people. Right. That's a variation of you people, particularly when you talk about the term posse, it really, as it refers to people who are around professional athletes. It really started in the early 90s, this idea that the guys around them are their posse, right? And at the most benign level, you're talking about some dude on your couch eating Cheetos. So I'm like, hey, we need some more beer. At the most obscene level, it's the guys that handle the problems because I'm too big to handle the problems myself. Either way, that is a disrespectful characterization of Maverick Carter, of Rich Paul,
and the people
around LeBron James.
Very disrespectful. Where we come from, you very seldom get an opportunity to reach the top and be successful with the people who struggle with you. Coming from that area, you salute LeBron James and being able to put his two friends in position of power and doing it the right way.
Right.
A lot of guys get this opportunity and not able to get it done. LeBron has done it the right way. Mav has done it the right way. Rich has done it the right way. You have to salute them. I would definitely feel offended by those remarks, by all the hard work they put, by all the hard work LeBron does. It's an insult, and I would take it as such.
I mean, Rich Paul represents the #1 overall draft pick in last year's draft, Ben Simmons. I mean, this is a business and a series of businesses that have had great success, to your point. And I think there's also a history here that LeBron referred to in that clip that he's had to endure. I mean, remember the letter that Dan Gilbert wrote when he left Cleveland that had a lot of racial overtones and was a big problem for a lot of people. There was some back and forth with Pat Riley in Miami that's clearly not quite over. And now this, and I mean, you were talking about a point in Phil Jackson's, one of his books where this came up.
In the book, The Last Season, there was an excerpt specifically about LeBron James. And he says, and here's a quote right here, "In the Cleveland game, I was impressed with LeBron James, who has made strides since we played the Cavs during the exhibition season. Yet, as talented as this kid definitely appears to be, I don't believe he or any 19-year-old should be playing in the NBA.
Wait for it.
These young men grow so dependent on their posses who fetch their cars and their girls that they can't possibly develop into mature, self-sufficient human beings. One day, I'm convinced we'll find out the true extent of the psychological damage that's being caused." Don't tell me that he was just using a word to mean like, oh, the guys in the Old West. There's a very specific connotation there that he's used before
in relation
specifically to LeBron James, right? And the other thing I wanted to touch upon beyond that, and I don't want to distract from that, but what Stephen said is really interesting, because a lot of times in this country, disenfranchised people are not able to progress, not because they're not talented enough or smart enough, but because the opportunities are not there, right? So I said about this on the NBA Lockdown podcast. In the autobiography of Malcolm X, he talks about working for a guy named West Indian Archie, a numbers runner. He said this guy was a math genius, but because he never had anybody give him opportunity or steer him in the right way, he becomes a numbers runner, a organized crime guy. In a different set of circumstances where people are investing in you as a human being, this guy could have been a math professor. Same thing here. LeBron James is given opportunities to dudes who otherwise probably wouldn't have had those. Now, it's up to them to make the most of those opportunities, and they have.
And that, by the way, is its own whole separate storyline that we don't talk about that much with LeBron James. But the way he has empowered black business owners, the way he has created businesses for people who, as you say, is disenfranchised, is something in the number of things that we do or don't give him credit for probably should get talked about more. And if it was, frankly, J.J. Redick and a bunch of his friends from Duke that we were talking about here, and one of his guys negotiated $1 billion deal with Nike, which, by the way, this group of guys did, and then started 2 entertainment companies that have deals with Warner Brothers and NBC. I don't think anyone's using the word posse, correct?
You got an office on Warner Brothers' lot. That's huge. But the thing is, too, if you ever seen Dan Gilbert travel, he travels with 20 people. Around the time David Falk, he traveled with a lot of people. Orrin Tellum had a lot of people traveling with him. Was that a posse then? No, but you have a rich young black man, 35 years old, that's doing it the right way. It's always going to be a problem.
And by the way, the other thing I was going to say, even if we get away from this word, right, there's the other part of this, which is, look, you want to talk about players being entitled? I seem to remember Michael Jordan going down to Atlantic City in the middle of the playoffs. I seem to remember Dennis Rodman being given a pass to go to Vegas on an off day. You want to have stories about entitled players doing things? Start on your own teams, Phil. Why are you talking about other people? Right?
And to solve a lot of these problems, worry about what you can control.
By the way, the Knicks are terrible. I don't know if America, I don't know. We kind of disguise all that. The Knicks are awful, and they've been awful.
And there's also an age issue here, too, right? Phil is 71 years old. You have an old model here where all the power went to big management companies, IMG, CAA, and all the power went to the Phil Jacksons and the Pat Rileys of the world. And times have changed, and players have more power, and the people around them have used that power in smart ways. That kind of stuff is important to recognize. So even if you take race or not race out of it, and by the way, you shouldn't, because there is a racial side of this to discuss, it is dismissive and condescending. Right. And that is sort of the secondary part of this that is just as important. We do have to go to break, but there's still so much more to come on The Jump. Steve Kerr couldn't believe that he had to address Klay Thompson trade rumors. We're going to play the whole what he said, what he meant game next, which, by the way, is kind of this whole show today, I think. Let's head to break with Jeff Teague here.
Can you tell us the origin of your nickname?
Well, I didn't name myself.
Okay.
It was actually given to me, God.
Go on. Maybe you've heard of him.
It was in my dream. So.
Was he in person? Did he have a face? Did he have a face, or was he a disembodied voice?
Kind of. It was like a half face, and it was shadowed.
What did the face look like that you saw?
It was like behind the curtain. It was like, I'm gonna name you Swaggy. I was like, who's that? He said, God.
I'm God. Wait, half of it was like, it was
a black curtain. It was a black curtain that he was peeking behind, and he seen me.
Kind of a creep.
Yeah, not a creep, but like, he didn't really want me to see him, but I seen him.
Got you. Did he add the P or did he say Swaggy? Did he say Swaggy?
P.
He said Swaggy.
Yeah, he said P. I was like, what the P? And he said, you don't know. Let's go.
That was Nick Young on the Open Run podcast, which I was actually on. I was sitting next to him when he told that story. And I can tell you, as you heard a little bit there, the entire room was on the floor laughing. And number two, we now also know, guys, this is useful information. God has now spoken to Noah, Moses, and Nick Young. Yeah. So that's the list. We can just move on now. We are going to move on to a game called What He Said versus What He Meant. And the guys are going to break down sound bites from around the league that tell you what they really meant. So let's start with Doc Rivers in last night's game over the Nets. The Clippers have the league's best record, 10-1 with that win. But Doc Rivers doesn't want you making a big deal about it just yet. So here's what he said last night.
You know, we're all saying you're like the best team in the league now.
No.
Do you not want that?
I don't care, really. I mean, at the end of the day, we like us, you know, but at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter. We know as good as we're playing, and I said it before the game, we can be a lot better, and we're going to be better.
That was Ramona Shelburne in that clip, and I mean, you were at that game also, so that's what he said. What did he actually mean?
Don't you put that label on me, Ricky Bobby! Don't you do that! That's what that was. He basically doesn't want the target, the spotlight, the microscope to come on here. Because right now, in this season, we talk about who are the best two teams. Who's going to be in the finals? Cavs, Warriors, Cavs, Warriors, Cavs, Warriors. Clippers don't enter that equation. Now they're getting there.
People are having that
If
conversation.
you had that conversation, now that expectation went from, hey, you guys made the conference finals, good job, to how did you not make the finals? You failed again.
Right.
Too early in the season. You can't judge us right now. We have a long way to go. Hopefully we playing as good at the end of the season. We don't want to be the best right now.
Come on, but he feels like they're the best.
I was going to say, I think
Can't say
that
that.
I think the
You
thought
can't
bubble.
say it, but
right, the thought bubble
Right,
is
right.
you know that we're
We
the
the
best,
best,
but I'm
right.
not going to say
Politically
that.
correct.
Let's move on to Steve Kerr and the Warriors. Yesterday, rumors of a potential trade involving the Warriors moving Klay Thompson to the Celtics surfaced, well, after former player Brian Scalabrine talked about it on the radio. Guess what? Didn't turn out to be anything to them, and here's what Steve Kerr had to say.
Steve, I know you kind of made a joke about it earlier, but when trade rumors like today pop up and they kind of surface throughout the web, do you have a conversation with Klay?
Honestly, I didn't even think about it. I didn't know about it until just now. I think our guys know that that stuff is almost always just BS.
Steven, what did he actually mean there?
He meant don't believe people on the outside looking in. If it don't come from this organization, hey, don't believe it.
Yeah, Scal's my guy, but Scal, come on, man. You can't just be quoting any old source, man. I mean, like, that's my thing. We kind of figured out this basketball thing. If it didn't come from us, it didn't come from the guys over at Yahoo, it didn't come from Bleacher Report. That's pretty much the NBA.com guys.
Yeah.
That's pretty much everybody. Anybody else outside of that, take that with a heaping of salt.
See, I think his thought bubble is this. Now I have to deal with this. I just got rid of the balloon conversation. Now I have to deal with this. Come on. I mean, look, it's got a lot. We're going to have a lot of what he said, what he meant in the NBA this season. That's just the beginning of it. We got to take a quick break, but when we get back, we're going to hear what these guys have to say about Draymond Green, calling himself one of the best players in the NBA. And by the way, I think what he meant is, I think I'm one of the best players in the NBA. You don't have to play this game with Draymond. Here is our distant replay, though. This takes us back to 2002 on this date.
Get out of the way. Let him go by him. Clear out. Let him go. Marion. I think Marion was in shock as the entire Suns bench went sideways. Watch this. I mean, that was They don't have that kind of crossover in Shanghai, would just be my guess.
Let's talk about Draymond Green. He might be on a team full of superstars, but, he is one of them. And Green very open and confident with our own Chris Haynes about his standing in the league. Here is his quote. The way I see myself is, I think I'm one of the best players in the NBA. Am I going to go out and score 30 every night? Absolutely not. But I didn't say I was one of the best scorers. I think I'm one of the best players. Draymond Green right.
I think he is. First of all, he was all NBA last year by default. That means you're one of the best players in the league. Second of all, he's a really, really smart player. Listen to that quote. He knows exactly who he is. He's not here to tell you, I'm Iverson, I'm Jordan.
Right.
He's here to tell you, I do all these other things really, really well. And of course, on a team like Golden State, that's made easier because you're surrounded by scorers.
He's definitely top 25 player in the league, but definitely top 5 defenders in the league. So, and everybody should have that confidence in themselves being in the NBA.
Top 5? I would say top
3.
I would say top 1.
I was going to say, if
He's
you're in the
best-
conversation
he's
for
the
Defensive Player of the Year every year, and you do, the game is all those things. We criticize guys who only want to score. So you got to give credit to the guys who are willing to do all the other stuff.
People,
The thing that is going
And
to
it's more than just defense, right?
determine how good he is just his ability to control the flame, right? We like the fire, just don't burn down the house.
Right. I like he also said, if I see that Steph Curry has the ball, he's like, what am I going to do? Not throw the ball to Steph?
That's smart. He's not delusional. That's what I like about him. He knows exactly who he is, and that's so important in this league.
And especially after the season started, with a lot of conversations about Draymond Green, his place on the team, maybe some difficulties within the team structure, that seems to have all gone away, right? I mean, it seems like he's fitting in there, and they have a cohesive locker room, and they have balloons. I'm going to try to mention balloons every day on the show this week. Every day, people. That's the buzzer, which means it is time for Make or Miss. Make disrespect. Amari Stoudemire, playing in Israel now, offered his glasses to a referee. Guess he didn't like the call,
3 words. Hate, hard, approve. my guy Stat, he learned from the best.
I love it. Classic. I wish I wore glasses. I would have done it.
Yeah, for real, right?
Million referees.
They would have been passed around the set a few times. Miss control. Russell Westbrook received a technical for what appeared to be an accidental kick here to the groin. I mean, this may be the Draymond Green rule, Steven. Did he deserve the tee?
The worst call in NBA history. He's been aggressive. He don't know who's behind him. The worst call in NBA history.
The worst call in NBA history.
Rescind it.
See, I was going to be on one side of this discussion, and then when you called it the worst call in NBA history, now I'm on the other side of this discussion. I have flipped right over. We're going to make a list of all the bad calls in NBA history, and that's going to be for you. Make superpowers. DeMar DeRozan putting up huge numbers this season, and explains it's because the game has slowed down for them, adding, quote, it's like Neo in the Matrix. Steven, is that fair?
Hey, he's playing as good. I hope he feels like Neo because he looks good, but the game has slowed down for him. He's more confident. Hopefully he can continue it.
Hot take. I fell asleep in every single Matrix movie.
Oh, come on.
Them joints were boring, man.
No way.
Look, I like the premise. The idea was good. I fell asleep in every single one.
Missed celebration. Chris Paul and DeAndre Jordan went in for a celebratory headbutt, but apparently went a little too hard. Was this too much of CP3's trademark intensity on the court, I mean?
There's no such thing as too much intensity when you're winning like these guys are winning. They had a nice little joke about it at the press conference. It was cool.
You know, when a guy like Chris Paul can do some damage to a guy like DeAndre. I mean, it wasn't as bad as putting him in that State Farm commercial, but, you know, we got Kareem back on the show tomorrow. We'll see you tomorrow from L.A.